Manic Monday! It's gonna be a magic Monday.
Okay, so first of all, welcome to my old channel that I never used, but hopefully get to use now. Welcome to another Magic Monday. Today, I want to talk about how can a cheat meal turn into a cheat day that throws you off of the wagon, and how to get back on the wagon. So first, I want to talk about mistakes that I made that caused the cheat meal to turn into a cheat a couple days. Then I want to talk about how to get back on track and how to get into ketosis faster. I am going to be looking down to my notes, and I hope that my voice is loud enough because I'm recording on my computer. So here we go. I guess every video that I've seen tells us not to take cheat meals or cheat days. And then there's people that say, yeah, you need it. And then there's people that say carb cycle. And then there's people that say no, strict keto. And then there's people that say no, dirty keto. So ultimately, what works for you? And for me,
I thought a cheat meal would work.
I think that I didn't understand the most basic principle, I guess, to taking this extra carb meal. So that's my first point that I want to make. If you do plan to take the day off, or maybe just a meal off, or even just one snack as a quote unquote cheat day, or a day that you add extra carbs, and especially if they're going to be junk food carbs,
Okay.
the most important thing to think before you decide. First of all, you're at an amazing place, obviously. If you're doing low carb, if you're doing keto,
The mental stamina, the clarity, all of that.
you're already in a really good place. So it's like, how are carbs going to affect me, right? But the biggest thing is, why do I want this cheat day? Why do I want to cheat? Why? I discovered that I decided to do it in a day that I was very sad. I actually had a dear friend pass away, my sister in Christ. Of all days, that's the day that I was just kind of like justifying the extra carbs. So because of the grief, the sadness, I decided, oh well, I'm gonna go visit, family, because you start to feel like, oh, you don't want to run out of time. I was able to hang out with him, but then that led to, oh well, let's just eat out. And initially, I wasn't thinking of cheating. I was just like, oh, I could just get a boneless burger with extra veggies, no fries. But then I was like, maybe I could just have one of the breads and a couple of fries, which then turned into more than a couple of fries and ketchup. That started a parade of cravings. Like, that threw me into a rabbit hole of cravings that I could not climb out of. After the fries, all I could think about was my next carb. Like, it sounds so crazy, but it is an addiction. I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna get a little bit of chips. Like, we already cheated today. Like, we could just end the day cheating and it'll be fine because tomorrow we'll get on track. And obviously, my husband was grieving too, and he usually is a lot stronger at this time because of the reason that he's on keto, or I guess we're technically keto. I'm not necessarily like always dirty keto, and I'm not always super strict keto, but we are super, super, super low carb. Like I said, when you're not in the right mindset, we tend to fall a lot easier. So that's my first thing, is, why do you want to cheat? My advice, which you don't have to take it because I'm not a professional, I'm not a nutritionist or nothing like that, but my advice would be to save a cheat moment or a cheat day for a day that you have something special, or something like that, where like you don't want to ask everybody. I mean, it's not gonna be like every single thing that you go to, but like, wait for those moments that you're doing it out of joy and fellowship and breaking bread with people and building bonds and stuff like that. Like, don't do it just because the craving or just because you're sad. I remember hearing a rule that was like, don't ever drink when you're sad, right? I don't drink anymore, but I think that's kind of what applies to carbs now. So anyway, that night turned into me going and getting some hot Cheetos and Reese's for my husband. And then that also led to my kids, who they don't really do keto, but I do keep them at a no sugar, or very low sugar. But I got them a donut and a muffin, and we shared chips. And tomorrow for sure, like tomorrow will fast in the morning because it's Sunday and we're going to church. The rest of the day we'll eat super strict keto. Like I said, when you don't plan things, you don't see other things coming. So, like I said, we should save those moments, 4 moments that are going to glorify God. The next day it ended up being a lunch at church where there was potato salad and rice. And if I had not cheated the day before, it could have worked out. But instead, it turned into 2 days of carbohydrates because of the fact that I had cheated the day before. Now, I'm like, oh, yes, my brain's just on that high. But on the side note, honestly, the high and the quote unquote satisfaction you get from carbs is not anywhere near the quench of your hunger that you get from fats. Carbs, I feel like the more carbs you eat, the more carbs you want. Especially sugars or refined carbs, the more processed, the more you want of it. So that's all you can think about eventually is just like, what's my next carb? I mean, my next meal. And fats, you eat and then all of a sudden you feel satiated, you feel satisfied, and you can go on and live and think of other stuff that has something to do with food. Fast forward Sunday night, we end up having to go get groceries, and I could smell the chips through the bags. I swear, like everything was just like.
Take me with you.
The bad part of it is that I'm gonna get these cravings, but I'll just do keto version, so dirty keto. Well, instead of the ice cream I want, I'll just get a keto ice cream. Instead of chips, like I'll get a bunch of pork rind. For candy, like I'm gonna go home and make me some Reese's. I'm gonna go get that sugar-free chocolate. Instead of putting out the fire of cravings, I was fueling it with something different. And just because it says that it's keto friendly or whatever, you're still feeding the beast. And then the worst part is that the cravings are real. I mean, this is honestly how you pack on the weight in the beginning is you overeat carbs. It's super easy to overeat them. So then you end up going way over calorie. Problem is that a lot of quote unquote keto friendly snacks and processed foods, they still have a lot of fat. So they have a lot more calories than a regular low fat, sugar infested lollipop or whatever. Just 5 little things I want to just mention. The first step to get back into ketosis, to get back to where you used to be and just move on, is to acknowledge the fact that it's an addiction. Like it's a real addiction. So if you realize, like, you know what, it's part of the addiction, not that it's exactly the same thing, but your brain lights up very similar to when you're eating sugars and carbs. It's still like a really strong desire to consume these things that are essentially killing you, like giving you diabetes, heart disease, and all this other stuff. The first step is to acknowledge it, that it is an addictive behavior. Okay, so the second one is remember who you are.
Remember who you are.
Remember how good you felt 3 days ago. Like physically, mentally, how good you felt before this whole cheating fiesta.
I mean, fiasco, not fiesta.
You were pretty much a sugar-free sweetie, and you can get back there again.
Remember the mental clarity, the energy. You really weren't craving all the time.
You remember that when you're satisfied, when you're satiated, when you have these foods that make you feel full, and when you start to get hungry again, you don't feel like you're starving because the ketones that your body uses as energy, your body runs smoother on them. It's not like sugars where it's up and down. So step 3 is don't try to crutch keto.
Which is exactly what I did. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get keto ice cream, keto pizza, keto friendly, everything.
Don't try to crutch the cravings with keto, quote unquote, low carb junk food. We can't overeat these things and the calories add up like that because they're so full of fat. So you want to put out the fire. It's not so much that you'll continue to crave them as much. It will take a lot longer to get back into ketosis because your insulin is going to constantly be spiking. Number 4 is you obviously want to eat how it was in the beginning. You want to get back into ketosis. The simpler, the better. You have your protein, you have your fat, you have your greens. Boom. It's been proven to be a benefit is intermittent fasting. For me, as a believer in Jesus Christ, fasting is more than just weight loss and all of that, but God did promise fasting would bring forth our health.
Try to stick to the green, what they call cruciferous vegetables, moderate protein with your healthy oils.
You don't want to keep that inflammation that's going to be occurring because of all the
cheating.
You don't want to keep it going by you then incorporating
vegetable oils and canola oils and all that other
stuff.
The number 5, the last one is breathe. It's gonna be fine.
So you got off the wagon, or you fell off the wagon, or you were thrown off the wagon.
Dust off, climb back on the wagon, and wagon on. It's not going to be the last time that you are confronted with cravings. It's not going to be the last time that you fall. That doesn't mean that we should be like, oh, well, I'm going to fall anyway, so I'm just going to, no. Like, you strive and you strive and you strive to do what's best, to make right decisions. And then if you ever go left, turn back around. You know, it happened this time for us. So I learned my lesson. You don't get off of things that you know are going to make you healthier on a day that you feel grief. Like, I'm also learning today is that I have to breathe. Like, it happened, you know, and it might happen again someday.
I'll try my hardest not to let it happen.
Not the end of the world.
What's done is done. That doesn't mean that I continue to do it. We are human, so we will have weaknesses. You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. For every time that you fall, you actually overcame like 100 different times, because there's a lot of times that you have craving that you don't give into it. Be proud of the times that you overcame, and then use that as motivation to continue overcoming. God cares about even the smallest little things, even our diet and our bodies. So I do have a bonus one. You can always work out, but I did it as a bonus because my problem with putting it on the list is that a lot of times you eat something and you punish yourself by working out. Like, oh, it takes 3 hours to burn off a Coca-Cola, or it takes 4 hours to burn off a slice of pizza, or whatever. Like, I'm not saying those are right. We see it that way. So I'm gonna go and do 4 hours of workout because, oh, I'm stupid and I messed up. And that's not at all it. If you feel like, man, I want that energy and I know that a workout's gonna stimulate my mind to just be more at peace and at ease. And so if you work out, if you do full body like workout, like once every 3 days, to give yourself time to recover, it's going to deplete those glycogen stores and get into ketosis faster. It gets you in a mental space faster, and it obviously gives you more motivation. But if it's out of punishment, then maybe that's not for you, man. At least not through this moment. You should be getting active and all of that, but not out of punishment. Like, you don't deserve to be punished because you ate a hot Cheeto. But if that's the case, then my advice is just take it a day at a time. Like, don't worry about the exercise part of it. Like, go walk, go and just breathe outside, breathe in that grace, breathe out that praise to God, and know that there's greater things that you are called to do. There's greater purpose for which you were made than keto. One of the reasons that I really like doing keto and super low carb, because it does allow me to focus on things outside of food that before I didn't, which God's purpose for my life is not about food. He literally says, don't worry what you're going to eat. So keto is one of those tools that allows me to glorify God a lot more. And it's a process. Breathe. You're fine. You'll be back. Even if this morning you were started off the day wrong, you're like, oh, I messed up again. Well, then stop. That's it. Like, it boils down to what are you going to do from this moment on. The last meal, it cannot matter because, the insulin spike already happened. All of that already happened. What is your next meal going to be like? What is your next day going to be like? So focus on that. This is not a manic Monday. It's a magic Monday. Even though I look like this is going to be my look for my crazy Mondays, because it's Monday. You got to love Mondays. Bye.